Good morning, class. We are going to watch this video and take notes on the things that we forgot to do in our study guide. Some of you might have taken it home and worked on it over the weekend, but there's a lot of people I don't think did. We're going to take time today to work on it. So if you got done with it, that's great, but maybe you could spend some time looking at and making sure you're familiar with the study guide, with the study guide sheet here, because this is something you can study. So we're going to do the test on Tuesday. So that gives you time to still kind of look at this and look at the key parts that are most important. Look at, what is a perimeter? What are some of the vocabulary to look for? And then once you find it, then you could underline those parts or highlight those parts on the problems that you're doing on the real test, and then know what formula to choose, and you write down the formula or write down what you're doing and be like, oh, I'm adding this, and then show that you're adding this, or if you're multiplying this for area, and then you show what you're doing, etc., etc. Whatever you're doing, write a little note for what you're doing, and then go on. And then when you use your calculator, then you choose the right answer. You have a little bit of work that shows that so that way I know that you're really thinking about what you're doing. Okay, so we're going to jump right into it. In some parts, we're going to go really fast because we've actually already done it as a class, and then hopefully you did more. If you didn't and you didn't show work, you can take a quick look at this one. We already talked about it in perimeter, and there's some words here and that are clues, and so you could highlight or underline those words. I put them in bold black, but they won't be like that on the actual test. So you look for these words. Aha, this word is going to help me somehow. And then oh, wait a minute. I'm building a border, and a border goes around, so I would underline that word, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm adding, and I draw a diagram to figure it out, and then be like, oh. But you might do the same thing for area. You might accidentally put 70, 70, 70, but then you need to really think about what you're doing. And this one, you're doing a cardboard, and you're covering something, and then that's a clue, and you would highlight or underline the word that, and you would go boom. So just look at these really fast because we've already talked about them. And with area, just remember that you're going to label the units properly and call them square centimeters, because maybe the answer there might be two. It might be 149.5, 149 and 5/10 centimeters, but for area, in a right triangle or area, and in this, you're going to have it labeled square units, and in this case the units are centimeters. And so just remember that when you're doing these kinds of problems. So pause the camera if you need to, pause the video I mean, and just zero in on this part, zero in on that part, zero in on that part, because you need to have some kind of work. Don't just circle the answers and mark them the way we have them. I took this page off, so you can take this page off and serve it as a reference, use it as a reference while you're doing the rest of them. Here is another problem, and in this problem I have written a little bit of work, but not as much as work as I could have done. I could have done perimeter rectangles here like I have right here. I could have done that for each one of these, but once I identified that I'm doing perimeter and area, and which of the followings are dimensions of a rectangle with the perimeter of this, they're talking about the same rectangle. So you could write out the rectangle or the shape, but remember that you don't know what it looks like. You don't know if it's this one or not. So then you use the calculations. Well, for perimeter, I add all sides. That would be 7 plus 7, but wait a minute. I'm going to do more. Now, I could do more work. I could use a bigger paper and do all of it if you want to. So if you feel like, Mr. Holiday, that's great, you're giving me the answers and everything, but I want to do some more work here, that's fine. Pause the camera and do the more work that you want to do, but you don't have to. You could just try practicing doing it in your head like I am. 7 plus 7 plus another 7 plus another 7, because there's going to be 4 sides. And so then you would just take your calculator and go crazy. You go 7 plus 7, and then plus another 7 plus another 7. That would be 28. And then its area is easier. Length times width. They give us the length. They give us the width. It's 7 times 7, 49. Wait a minute. Does that match up with what we're doing? We have 28 perimeter. Yes, it's 28 perimeter. And they need area needs to be 24 millimeters. Is it? No. Cross it out. Then we do the next one. And again, 7 plus 4 would only be 11, not 22. Well, how did I do it? I added the length and the width, but then I added the length and the width again. I don't need to show any more work. You can just write it here because we're practicing doing it in our head. But just remember, when you're doing perimeter, you need to have both sides. So please, if by all means, if you need to borrow or get more paper for the actual test or for this one, for the study guide, just ask and I'll give you line paper. Pause your computer and get more line paper, because you're going to have to show me all of the work that you're doing. But you can just do some of it in your head, but show me this much, and you list it out. Even if you're like, but Mr. Holly, you gave me the answer. Yes, but I want you to realize I'm slowing myself down when I do these. I would make a little note and be like, well, I want a perimeter and I want this. What's perimeter again? I go over here and I find out. Well, I'm adding all sides. Okay, great. And I know it's a rectangle, so there's 2 of length and 2 of width, and I need to know that each time. So then I do that here. 2 of these would be 14. 2 of these would be 8. So that's 22. Okay, is 22 what we want for perimeter? No, I don't even need to go further. I don't even need to figure out area. I just eliminated it already. And so really, honestly, if you're listening to it and you're writing it down as I go along, you could write P equals 22 and stop and not write this. But if you're doubting yourself, you could just write it all. But anyway, you know, and you could stop there because you'll be like, boom, it's not that one because this. And this is the proof that it's not the right one because perimeter should be that. So then you'd circle or highlight or identify this, and that shows me that you're thinking about these numbers as you're comparing them with what you're coming up with. And then the next one, you go again, same thing happens. 8 plus 8 is 16. 3 plus 3 is 6. Or 8 plus 3 is 11, and then another 11. That's 22. Oh, again, I don't even need to write the area. Even though the area is correct, I don't even need to do that. I just wrote P equals 22. It's not correct. Then I go to the last one. I could just assume, or I could write it out and go, well, the perimeter is what? 12 plus 2 is 14, and then another 14 would be 28. Or 12 plus 12 is 24. Plus 4 is 28. Boom. And then am I sure I have the right answer? Then I could go further. 12 times 2 and be like, well, I should know my times tables. I could write a times tables for myself right now. No, don't do that. Swallow your pride. Use the calculator. 12 times 2. What is it? Oh, yeah, it is. It is 24. So 28 millimeters for perimeter and 24. Boom. I have my right answer. I'm good to go. I'm moving on. We already did this one. Take note of it. And note that you are going to label it cubic meters. Now I have a cubic units here because remember, when I'm just doing the basic formula, I know it's going to be cubic, whatever unit it is. The unit of measurement here is meters, though, that we want. So then that's what we're going to focus on. And why do I need to do that? Because if you're not labeling, you might choose this one. And on the SOL test at the end of the year, they might write 72 first. So you'll be eliminating these two, and then you're going to come down to 72 meters that comes before this one, and you will choose it by accident instead of choosing the right one. Okay? And then for this one, we already did this one. We already figured out which was which. But I want you to go back and underline why. Border is perimeter. Oh, it's perimeter because of borders, so underline border. You go to your vocab here and be like, oh, I see it. But you can just underline it for me. For volume, it doesn't say locker or storage, but it does say filling and 3D object, and so a storage or a locker can be filled. So we know that it's volume we're talking about. And then tile covers, so you'd underline cover. And tile's not mentioned, but cover is mentioned. But tile is like carpet, so there you go. You could underline that. But underline what I've written so far. For this one, we already did this one. We figured out that it was A. But remember, we're doing volume. We go over here to this. We look at the definition, and it says how much space, yada, 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 how much space can be filled in 3 dimensions. Filled is a clue. Fill is the vocab. Or the 3D object is even if it doesn't say the word 3D, we know we're dealing with 3D, okay, because it's volume. And so you're like, oh, okay, I'm looking for a 3D object. Oh, well, garden's 3D. Yeah, but I'm going around. So yeah, I could even underline clues that are proof that it's not. Okay, I could underline carpet right here because it's proof that it's not, because you're covering. We want filling. But really, honestly, you find this, you underline the clue of why it is. You can go through the other ones if you want to. And then we move on. Okay, so then we move on to the next one. And then this one's easy. Miss Bailey needs to know the area. I would highlight this. It's already in bold, but it won't be on the test. Look for what they want. They want area. Highlight, underline that. Go back to your reference point. Remember, you won't have this on the test, but you have it right now to use to be like, oh, okay, that's why it is what it is. And then you go through here and you could either underline reasons why it's not and cross it out, or just leave it like this and be like, well, I read through each one of these and I found the cover one. I wrote a note and said, well, it's 2D, it's a cover, it covers, oh, this one has what I want, cover. Okay, I wrote another word, tarp, it doesn't matter, but tarp is something that you use to cover stuff. So that if that's something that helps you, do that. If you look through this problem already, underline the things that convinced you that it wasn't C, that convinced you it wasn't B or A, or just do what you see me do. Copy this part as much. Don't just choose the answer. I'm going to be coming around later to check. I want to make sure that you guys are showing work, and this is how you would show work on a test. Underline what helps you, what helped you. So if you just looked at it briefly and only one thing helped you, great, by all means, just underline that one thing that helped you. Okay, if I want you to copy this next one from Miss Harrison needs to know the perimeter of something if she's buying. So then I automatically remembered that perimeter is around. If I didn't, I go back over here, be like, what's perimeter again? It's how far around. So then I write a little clue that helps me of what I'm looking for, and ding, 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 I found around. Also, I might have noticed in my vocab that fences, okay, so that helped me to be like, oh, so then I could underline fencing as well, or I could leave it. And then I don't need to underline the other ones that cancel them out, but I could just do this one, look briefly at the other ones, and boom, I have my answer. Then go right here to number 10, and then I refer back to what I have. Now, I want you to take time to go back over here for this one because something changed here. I added something here on the study sheet, so could you copy this too? KM hyphen M. So if you're going from kilometers to meters, you're going to do times 1,000, and if you're going to go from meters to kilometers, divide by 1,000. And remember that, so please copy that down and put this on your study sheet. And you're going to take this home on Monday. Take the whole thing home, including your work. You could show your family because they might want to, because I might make a note for them to be like, so you're supposed to be bringing this home. Do you have it all here? So please make sure, because I'm going to tell them that I told you that I wanted you to take the whole thing. Okay, so here we go. So we have notes here. And notice I made a note that we were multiplying because when you look over here, it says 8 kilometers. And then they want to know how many meters. So I'm going to a smaller unit, yes. But since I'm going to a smaller unit and a grouping of a larger unit is going to cover more of them. So that means if I'm converting to a smaller unit, there's going to be more of them. So like here, I have this larger unit when it goes to a smaller unit, there's more of them. It went from 1 to magically to 1,000. How did I get from that to that large number? There's two ways you get larger, and one is adding and one's multiplying. And obviously we went really big, really fast. So we did what? We multiplied and we went 1,000. Now you can learn this process, or you could be like, what's the difference between these two? 3 zeros or 3 place values, to be honest. It's not about adding 3 zeros to 8 and being like 8,000, because what if the kilometers was a decimal and it was 8.4? If it was 8.4, we wouldn't put 84,000 here. We would respect the 4 that's in decimal, the 4 tenths, and just go over it. And then, so the 4 would be here, and I would go under it, and I would have 8,400. But that's not 8.4, 8 and 4 tenths. We just have 8 kilometers, and then we add the 3 zeros in this case, or 3 place values to the right, and then it becomes 8,000. Or swallow your pride and just use your calculator, okay? If you don't get the bunny digging where you go underneath and you go 3 place values to the right, because obviously that's what happened here. It went from 1 to 3 place values to the right, and it became 1,000. So you have 8, 3 place values to the right becomes 8,000. So either way, but please copy all of this, including this part right here. Even if you're like, well, I'm going to use a calculator. Have this for future reference, because maybe, just maybe, by doing it, because kinesthetically it works when you write something and copy it, it helps to learn the process. And then you're like, after doing it a few times, you're like, oh, I get it. Okay, so please consider, please do all of this. Please copy all of this that I have here. So then the next one, we go on. 11, there are 1,000 milliliters to 1 liter. And even though they don't do the format like they did here, it's the same thing. It's times 1,000, because I'm going from this larger unit. And that, see, they just flipped it, okay, because it should be 1 liter in front, from left to right, 1 liter, and then 1,000 milliliters. And so, but it doesn't matter really, because it's really about slowing down and thinking about what's happening. I have a small unit, so there's more of them, and then I have a large unit. But for here, though, they start at the large unit, and they do want small units. And so the small units, there's going to be more of them. So it's going to be this, there's 3 place values more. So it's to the right. So it's 3 place values, so copy this. So that's one way we could discover the answer, 3,200. But also copy this and be like, well, I know what it is, and it's over here. And I go, oh, okay, I need at least this much. So I write liters to times 1,000 equals milliliters at least. That's my clue, what to do. Then I write 3.2 liters times 1,000. Punch it into my calculator, because I still don't get this part. And then I answer it. But if you're like, I get this, please copy both. Please copy my little note right here too. The little note right here on the side that shows times 1,000. Copy all this, because maybe that's you. Maybe on the test, maybe you just make a little note, you figure it in your head, but make a note, because you need to show work, even if it's this times 1,000. Okay, even just like these. All I did was you highlighted a little bit, underlined a little bit. That's your work. In this case, though, we're doing real calculations, so show me some kind of calculation process. Even if you're like, well, I did it in my head and I came out with this. Well, then show me that this is what you did, that you moved 3 place values. Show me the 3 place value movement that you did. Okay, but so you get to choose on the test how much of this work you would actually show. But right now, I want you to copy all of it. Okay, get yourself in these processes, and maybe you'll just learn this process as well as the calculator process. Okay, so then again, you can see what I copied here for number 12. You can copy that. But why did I choose to go in this direction, divided by 1,000? This is why. Because a container, and I wrote this wrong, a container weighs 5,000 grams, and I divided by 1,000, okay, to get to kilograms again. Because why? Because it says, what is its weight in kilograms? So they want me to go to the larger unit. And larger unit, there's less of them. And to get really small really fast, do I subtract or do I divide? I divide to get really small really fast. And so I'm dividing, obviously, because that's what we're doing when we're doing measurement converting. We're either doing multiplication to get really big, or the numbers really big, or if we're going small. So we already started with big numbers, and we want smaller numbers because they want you to go to a larger unit. Well, it's a larger unit, yes, but not larger numbers. It's smaller units when you have a grouping that has a lot in it, and this has a lot in it. It has 1,000 grams in it. That means the number is going to be smaller. It's not going to be 5,000. It's going to be much smaller than 5,000 in this case. So we have 5,000, and we know that the little format here is this. So then I write notes for it. I write that to myself. I write kilograms to grams, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm going to the larger unit, so there's going to be fewer of them. So I'm going to make this smaller, divided by 1,000. And I might make a little note of it. And so then I make a note of it here. So you make a note of it here. And I'm trying to get to kilograms. I'm trying to get to kilograms. So I'm going to divide, because that's what I remember. That's what I memorized here in this process right here. Another way that I could do it is I could think, oh, okay, I need to get to this larger unit, which is less. It's only 1. This will be on the test. It will say 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. I need to get to this smaller one, which is only 1. It's 3 place values to the left. So then I would move 3 place values to the left. I wouldn't just take 3 zeros away, because what if it was 5,400 or 5,300 grams? Then it wouldn't be 5,000 or 5, it would be 5.35 and 3/10. But there is no 300 here, so it just moved 3 place values. So it's not just about taking the zeros away, it's moving the place value to the left. So please copy down this, even if you're like, I don't get this. Great, you don't have to yet, but copy it, write the arrow down even. Do the full process, including the arrow, and then eventually you'll get it as you constantly, because we're not giving up on this. We're still gonna be doing decimals later. So you're gonna have plenty of chance to be like, oh, okay, I'm getting it. And just copy it. Follow the process. Copy the rest of this. So then you're gonna do not this. Then if you're gonna do this, then you would just take 5,000, divide by 1,000, punch it in, punch in the equal sign, and ding, 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 you get 5. 5 what? 5 kilograms. Let's see, is that one it? No. Then the next one, what is it? Oh, there it is. Boom. Okay, same thing here. We have this one is 1 meters, and then I wrote a little note. I have a little arrow here, and it's divided by 100. But how did I get to that? It's great if you want to copy it and like, oh, there's the answer. But please, come on, look at the rest of what I'm doing. How did I get to this? How did I know to divide? It says a piece of metal is 24 centimeters long. What is its length in meters? Well, I know that it starts off with this smaller unit, but I want the larger unit, so there's going to be less of them. And how much do I need to make a meter? I need 100. So I would go back and I would reference over here, and then I would be like, oh, okay, then I need to divide by 1,000. So maybe this is your process. Maybe you don't even remember this part, but you know you're going to divide by 100. So maybe your only work for me is that you put a little note here and you put divide by 100. And that's your work. That's your proof. Because when we do the test, I'll say, where's your work? You say, I got it all done. Yes, but can you go back and show me? Underline what keywords helped you. And if you're doing equations, show me what equation you're doing. Write it down, slow it down. Otherwise, you could be looking to the left or the right of you and looking at somebody else, and I can't have you doing that. You need to just depend on yourself and your ability to do this. And slow yourself down, because it could make you, if you have to slow yourself down and you're going times 100, then you'd be like, wait a minute, this is wrong. Because you slowed down to write it down, and then you're like, oh, it's divided by 100, because I need to get to meters. Okay, I'm going to a larger unit, so there's going to be less of them, so it's divided by 100. So writing your work down is going to stop you from making simple mistakes. Okay, and then also copy this one down, because look, I'm going from here to here, so then it's like, well, there's 2 zeros missing. I don't just take them away, though, because if I took them away, then I would have 0, 0 here, and I would just put 2 zeros down. No, I'm going to just, instead, I'm going to not take these 2 numbers away, but I'm going to write the number 24 and go left to right, 2 place values, because I'm going to a smaller unit, and it's 100. There's 100 centimeters to a meter, so I divide, so I punch it in. I write 24 divided by 100, and then I get the answer here, which is, it's not going to be this one, because it's not 24. It's not going to be this one. Okay, so you probably copied it and boom, you got tricked. So it's not that one. It's going to be, and if you punched it into the calculator, you got point, like right here with this arrow. And you can copy this with me, the little dot, and it's not 0.24 really. The wordage is 24 hundredths, but you know, you get it, 0.24. And then it's, oh, it's this one, not that one, because maybe you were thinking, yeah, it's decimal, and you might accidentally choose A, but no, it's this one. Okay, so now let's go to the next one here really fast. So we have, for this one, we have Mrs. Clark is making Halloween candy bags for each of her 24 students. She needs 13 centimeters of ribbon to decorate each one. Notice I've underlined or highlighted certain parts. Why don't you do that? If you don't have a highlighter, just underline. She purchased 5 meters of ribbon. And how many centimeters of ribbon will be left over after making the Halloween bags? Okay, 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. Write your answer in the box below. Now, anytime you can pause and write down some of the numbers. Now, I wrote this here just to help me walk you through it because those are the answers that I already pre-calculated. It's really hard holding the camera and using a calculator at the same time when your phone is the calculator. So I did that earlier on. So how many centimeters of ribbon? Well, remember it says each here. So that gives me a way so that think about what you're doing. Am I just making one candy bag? Then it's 13 centimeters. And then why would she buy 5 meters? And we know that a meter is 100. Why would I buy that many centimeters worth when I only need 13? If I just buy 1 meter, that would have been enough. In most places, they might not give you a centimeter or 13 centimeters anyway. They would give you a whole meter. Yes, I understand. But remember, it says 13 meters of ribbon for each. So this is a grouping. We have 24 students. But think of it like boxes. Each box has so much in it. It would have 13 centimeters in each box. But these aren't boxes. These are people. But we're making bags for them. So 13 centimeters is only this much. And so when you wrap it around, it makes a cute little bow. And that's what they're putting around these little, maybe they're little ghost bags. They look like ghosts. And they're Halloween bags. And then they have candy in them. So then we put the centimeter, the ribbons around. And then ta-da. So how many is she going to get? So then you write notes for yourself. And I want you to copy these notes. Step 1, 24 students with 13 meters of ribbon. And you're going to write whatever notes help you. Show me your work. Show me this step. Show me that you knew that you had to multiply. Don't just say, I figured it all in my head. I want you to show me evidence. There's going to be a problem like this on the test, and I want you to show me your evidence. Don't say you wrote it on your whiteboard, on your desk, and then you erased it or did it in your head. Show me this much, okay? So write this down for me right now, okay? And so then you have that, and then how many centimeters would that be, okay? And then you would calculate it, punch into your calculator, swallow your pride, don't do all the work, and then boom, it's 312. And then for this part, for 5 meters, look at this, pause your camera if you need to, and it's 5 meters times 100, because like here, it's times 100 here, because there's 2 zeros difference between here. And you wouldn't just add zeros, because what if it was 5.4 meters? Then you wouldn't add 2 zeros, because that would make it not 500, but 5,400. No, you would respect the place value, and you would move over 2 place values underneath, and then that would become 500. Or if it was 5.4, it would be 540 centimeters. But it's just 5, so it's 500 centimeters. So then you would take it away. So you would show me, because it's 312 altogether, that centimeters you need. But you bought 5 meters in increments of a meter. And then how many centimeters are left? This much. And make sure you label. Okay, so this one here, I didn't even finish it yet, but we have a part of it already chosen here. I already found one of it. Now, how did I get to it? Sally's piggy bank weighed 12 kilograms with coins in it. She took the coins out and weighed the piggy bank again. The coins weighed 9,000 grams. How many did her piggy bank weigh after removing the coins? 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. So highlight or underline the bits that I have. Well, this one's already underlined. And just anything that helps you. And so in normal circumstances, this wouldn't be bold, so you might want to underline it and say 9,000. But look, when you're comparing it, you know you're taking away something. So you took out. So if that helps you, underline it. Copy me right now and underline that. So she is taking out. So aha, subtraction. But we need to get this 9,000 to the same. So if I want to get it to kilograms, all I have to do is like, well, it's 1 kilogram here. So I take 3 place values out. So if this was 9,400, it would be 9.4. But it's not 9,400. So then I don't have to worry about that. I take the 3 zeros out, or I move to the left 3 times. And then it's 9. And then I put 12, just write what I have so far, and put 12 minus 9 kg equals 3 kg. So then, boom, I have this answer. but they want to know all of the ones that are correct. And so we need to know grams again. So remember what this is. This is this. And so to get to 1,000, it's times 1,000, or add 3 place values, not just 3 zeros, because what if it was 3.4? Then that would be 3,400, and it's not that much. Or, I'm sorry, it would be 34,000, and it's not that much. It would be 3,400, but in this case, it's not. It's just you add the 3 zeros or move the 3 place values to the right for these smaller units, and that makes it 3,000. And then you would choose this one as well. Not this one, it's way too small. Not this one, because that's too, that's too large. It's not that large of a unit, okay? It's only 3 kilograms, because look at, you have 12 here, and then you have only 9 there. You don't have that much, okay? So then we go on and we move on. All right. So one more for the for the 3 of, you have the capacity, you have the mass, and you have the length, and this one is a capacity one. So we have our conversion factor is pretty easy, and we can go back to our conversion. We have Maria has 350 milliliters of water, and Sally has 800 milliliters of water, and Bob has 680 milliliters of water, and Tommy has 825 milliliters of water. How many liters containers will be needed to hold all of the water? So highlight this, underline this, okay? Write a cute little note that reminds you that we want to know the liters, so we are going to a larger unit, so there's going to be less of them, and it's going to go less really fast, so it's division. But we have a step we need to do. We have so much here, so much there, so much there. Oh, we're adding. So then write this, copy this out, do the math, figure it out. And one really quick way, because obviously I chose this one, but how is that the right one? Well, if you even just rounded it really quickly, you could, make this 4, and then 800, that's 1,200. 1,200 plus 700 is 1,900. 1,900 plus 800 is 2,700. So even though it's going to be a little bit more than that or a little less, 2,700, it's that comes out to, when you do the conversion and you do the math, you're going to be like, well, Mr. Holly, I took that 2,700 and I divided by 1,000, I got 2.7, or whatever number you get if you use the real numbers, and it's going to be 2 point something. You're going to be tempted to use this one, but then you're going to have all that leftover water. It's like when the kids are going to a concert and you left kids because you didn't get enough buses. Again, you're going to have some leftover remainder, so then you're going to go to the next container. Even if one of the containers only has 700-ish milliliters, you're still going to use the larger container, so that's why you chose that one. So write down at least this much work. You don't have to do any more work after that for this one, okay? Because I know that you guys are doing some of it in your head, but please show the preliminary that you added and then you divided, even if all you do is say this. Even if you don't write out whatever number this is and then write division by 1,000, even if you don't write that part, write something that tells me, oh, I'm doing this, oh, I'm doing that, okay? But it really has to clearly say that, because if you do math that implies something different that's wrong and you choose the right answer, but you said times 1,000 and you did subtraction, then that's going to make me think that you looked over to the left or right of you and you chose what everyone else was writing. I don't want that. I want you to make sure that you really know it and prove to me that you really know it by showing your math properly. Okay? So now we're into the wonderful land of the times the times elapsed. And when looking at these problems, there's none where they go to another day of the next day, so we're good on that. We don't have to think that way, but we do need to think inside the day at least. So here we go. So we have a train left Los Angeles at 4:32 a.m. and arrived at Santa Fe at 6:47 p.m. So this is important because this tells me that we could be dealing with a quite large number. It could be more than 12 hours. In fact, it is, because it's 4:32 a.m. and it goes past 4:32 p.m. So this is important because it's more than, I might copy this down too. More than, I didn't think about this before, but you think about these things and go more than 12 hours. Because now, guess what I just did? I eliminated these two. My choices have to be either this one or that one. And this will significantly help me as I go along. Notice I wrote 2 benchmark setups. You don't have to write both of them. Do the one that would be truly you. Because there's many of you in this classroom, as you're watching this video, realize, oh yeah, I'm one of those people that could look at 432 and know that it's 28 minutes later. So copy this one. You would copy this one. You don't have to copy that one. And then I would know that it's 7 hours to 12 o'clock. And I know that 12 o'clock, I could see it as 0 and go from 0 to 6:47. It's just 6 hours and 47 minutes. Pause the computer and copy this. And that's all you have to copy. And then choose whatever answer it is. And you'll know, because what you'll do is you'll take the rest of this and you add it. And so then you would do the rest of your work. 7 hours. 6 hours. And 28 minutes. And then when you're doing this, you could even not even take this any further, or you could add it really fast. It's going to give me quite a large number here, 75. Oh my goodness. So already I know that this is more than an hour here, so it's not 13. It's not this one. It must be that one. And so I could leave it here, or I could take away 60 and add 1 here, and that would be 14. And then, or I could stop and be like, oh, I get it. Oh, I get it. But if you're not getting it, walk it through here. 15. Put a little note here to add. And then be like, oh, I get it. 14 hours. And remember, this is like a stopwatch time. It would be 14 hours and 15 minutes. And that's what I have. Ding, ding, ding. Now, if you're thinking more simplistically, you might use this one instead, where you're going 32 and I benchmark to 440, and that's 8 minutes. 440 to 5 o'clock, I can see that better. 20 minutes, 7 hours, 6 hours, 47. Then do the rest of that, but you would just have 20 minutes plus 8 minutes, and then you would have it all out. So whatever works for you, write that down. But please copy this, even if you just copy this and this, or this and this. Okay? So go on from there. So then next one, how much time has passed from 3:37 p.m. to 11:23 p.m. This is important because look, it's the same meridian. So if it's both the same meridian, you know that it is less than 12 hours because it's not from, because a meridian would be from 12 to 12, and it's a time within the meridian, 3:37 post meridian to 11:23 post meridian. So you know it's only that much. So now I can just take this, and then since I know it's less than 12 hours, I can eliminate this one and this one right now, and you can do the same. Oh, Mr. Haw, there's the answer. I don't have to do anything. No, of course you do. Please copy this after that. So then you're going to go here, and notice what I've done. I wrote 337, 437. You can copy it with me. 537, 637. I hope you're writing while you're watching this video. 737, using a pencil, of course, not a pen. I'm just doing this so it's darker for you. 8:37, 9:37, 10:37. So I go to each hour. Then I see an hour, and I go, well, that's 1 hour. That's 2 hours. That's 3 hours. That's 4 hours. That's 5 hours. That's 6 hours. That's 7 hours. Now, the problem that's going to be on the test is going to be similar, but it's going to be a different one. But it might be also in the same meridian, so watch out. It might be AM, AM, or PM, PM, but there will be a problem like that where they're in the same meridian, and you're going to watch out for it and look for it and be like, oh, okay. So then you know it's going to be less, so you can eliminate all the large ones, boom, boom, and then just for the ones that are more than 12, and just focus on the smaller ones. And then be like, oh, that's 7 hours. And then it's 10:37 to 11. If you need to benchmark this smaller and 37 to 1040, do it. Or just do 10:37 to 11, write 23. And 11 to 23 is another 23 minutes. So that's 7 hours plus 23 plus 23. Add it in your calculator if you need to. 46, 7 hours, and 46, 7 hours, and 46. And I choose that one, and I'm done. So then next one. Very easy, but this one you need to use your noggin for, and you're going to have a problem like this too, where it's a person is going to an event, and that event is an event that you know and you've heard of, and those events don't last more than 12 hours. So if you're going to a concert or a game or a play, I think it might be a play, but the point being is whatever event, you know it's not going to be 12 hours because no one goes to a 12-hour play, no one goes to a 12-hour concert unless it's one of those crazy all-day concerts. Those are the exception. But then if it was that kind of thing, then they would specifically put PM. I wrote PM here just as a visualization, but because that's when concerts usually are, is at night. But there are 24-hour, there's week-long concerts and stuff like that. But think of reality that you know. Think of concerts that your relatives, friends, or family that you've even seen in the movies. Most of them are just concerts that last a few hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever. So she's at the concert right now. The concert she was at would end at 11:15. So it doesn't matter if it's PM or AM, but it's going to be less than 12 hours, same meridian. So when I'm looking at my choices right here, I'm going to eliminate the big choices. Now here's the right answer, but how did I get to 1 hour and 38 minutes? First I look at this and I say, well, it's less than 10 o'clock here, but it's past 9, and it's past the half-hour point, and that's why the hour hand is right here in the middle or a little bit past it. So then I know that it is 9 something, and it turns out it's 9:37 because it's 2 notches after the 7. 7 times 5 is 35. So I calculate. You'll have a different problem for this problem on the test, but number 19 is going to be one where you read a clock, figure out what time it is, okay, and then you can benchmark it after that and go 9:37. So please copy this information here. You can do a simple benchmark. If you're one of those people that can see 9:37 and be like, oh, wait a minute, I see how many minutes that is. That's only, that's 23 minutes to the next hour. If you're like, I can't see that, benchmark it to a smaller unit of 10 that helps you, or a unit of 5, whatever helps you. So then you go 3 minutes, and then you would go 20 minutes. And that would be 23 minutes. Then how many hours from 10 to 11? That's 1 hour. And then after that, it's only a matter of minutes, 15 minutes. So then it would be 15 plus 23. You could add it in your calculator. You don't have to write it out here. And then that's boom, that's 38 and 1 hour and 38, and that's how you would know it. Or you could do it this way too, of course. But same difference. It's still 23 minutes plus 15 minutes plus the hour. So then you have ding, ding, ding. You're not going to choose A. You're going to choose B, which is 1 hour and 38 minutes. Now this last one, very simple one here, is I want you to look at our choices. They want us to, there's a table, shows the hours of each of the stores are open for business, and which stores are open for exactly 9 hours and 25 minutes. Put an X to all correct answers. Okay, we've already chosen the correct answers, but why was Henry's, why was mine, why was Brucker's correct, and why was Bailey's not open for that amount of time? In fact, I think Bailey's was open for longer. So what we would do is I want you to copy this information because we have this time here. So we start at 7:35. So we write 7:35 and then we put a benchmark line, just put a line here and put 8 o'clock. So we go to the next real number, a whole number, and we benchmark it and go 8 o'clock. And then benchmark it to 12 o'clock, then to 5. So then how much time happened here? We could benchmark this smaller, 35 to 40, and that would be 5 minutes, and 40 to 8 o'clock, which would be 20 minutes. Or just do it here if you can see, oh, it's 25 minutes. 25 minutes, write this. So guys, copy this at least, okay? Copy this at least. And I scratched this out because I made a mistake. Okay, so then it would be 25 minutes, 4 hours. And then when I go to 12 to 5 o'clock, I could get confused here. I could accidentally add 12 plus 5. But I don't do that. I imagine that this is like one of those weird British clocks that I was talking about, and then change it to 0, 0, 0, and then add 5 hours, and that's 5 hours. So then it would be 4 plus 5 equals 9, and 9 hours plus 25 minutes is ding, 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 the correct answer. So then we put X there for that one. And then why is holiday correct? Well, 8:15 and benchmark all the way to 9 o'clock would be 45 minutes, but maybe that's hard. So copy this and go, well, I'm going to benchmark to the one I understand. I understand the 3 to the 6. So that's 30 minutes or 15 minutes. So 15 minutes. Write this down. Copy this, guys. Then copy 30 minutes. Write all this down. Label all of this, guys. I want to see all of this work. Even if you're like, I get all of this. No, please do this. Oh, I did it some weird adding way. No. Copy this, because this is the best, most recommended way to do it. You notice I didn't use any of those weird subtraction things with the times things. The benchmarking is the easiest and the most recommended way to do it. Okay, so then when we get here, 9 to 12 o'clock is 3 hours, and then from 12 o'clock to 5:40, remember we changed that to 0, and then it's like plus 5:40, and that's 5 hours and 40 minutes. And then I want you to actually copy it out like this. So then you would write 3 hours, 5 hours and 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes. So pause the video if you need to, and then write this down. Boom, what would my answer be? It would be 8 hours and 85 minutes. Then what do? What am I doing here? Because I'm subtracting, but I'm not over here. So I am taking 60 minutes out. Okay, because I'm changing it to an hour, so I'm plussing it. So even though I'm subtracting here, I'm plussing here, so I have 9 hours out of 8 hours and 85 minutes. There isn't an 85-minute marker on the clock. So I take the 60 minutes out, change that to an hour, add it here, make it 9, and then what I'm subtracted, what I've left with is 25 minutes. Ding, 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 Mr. Holiday's there. Now, I noticed something. When I'm with Bailey, I noticed something. They both start at 8:15, but she goes longer. So I could automatically know right away. I could even make a note. She's open more than Mr. Holiday, and that could be my proof of work. Or I just humor me and just write this out. 8 hours and 15 minutes, and I have 9 hours and 25 minutes, because that's how much Mr. Holiday's was to 5:40. So write that benchmark all the way to 5:40, 9 hours and 25 minutes, plus an hour equals how many hours? Oh my goodness, that equals 10 hours and 25 minutes. So Miss Bailey, she's open longer. Maybe you do want to go to that store, but they want to know how many stores are open 9 hours and 25 minutes. Not at least, but when they say just that, they mean exactly. Okay, and so you're not going to choose Bailey's. Okay, so then the last one, we know this one is also one of them, but why? It's open later, but it's open later, and it starts later and it closes later. Okay, but we just benchmark it. We go from 9:30 to 10 o'clock, 30 minutes, 10 a.m. to 12 o'clock, 12 hours, and then remember this could be 0 here, 0, 0, 0, plus 6 hours and 55 minutes, boom. So this would be 2 plus 6 is 8, 8:55. 855 plus 30, that's still going to be 885. And guess what? 885 is what we have up here. So we know it's 925, and then boom, choose your answer. So that's that for part B. But now we're going to see if we can briefly go to part A really fast. So part A is going to be really easy because you're going to use your calculators for this. I don't even have it done here for you. Mrs. Clark purchased a box. She measured the dimensions of the box and recorded them on the diagram below. So she has 4 feet by 5 feet by 12, and there's 3 dimensions. So I go over here to my thing. I even see this shape here as a reminder, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I am doing volume right here. This is what we want, and it says volume. It wants me to do the volume. And what is the volume? Refer back. Oh, I have to do length times width times height. Because here they say, what is the volume? So we need to know what this answer is. And we're going to, like it says here, we're going to use cubic units. So if it's feet, we're going to use cubic feet. Just like this one's cubic is feet and this one. So it's not going to be feet is our answer, or we'll be graded down on it. We need to say cubic feet. So cubic feet it is. But what do? We're going to multiply these 3 dimensions. Okay. To be fair, on an SOL assessment, they might actually add another dimension here they might tell you the other ones. Don't be tricked. They just need 3. Just like that weird triangle one with the area where they had the hypotenuse mentioned. Don't be tricked by that. So then you could just make a quick little note to yourself, times, and then multiply it in your calculator. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Even like here, this is 5 times 12 is 60. 60 times 4, that's 240. So I even did it in my head, but you use a calculator. Swallow your pride, use your calculator to make sure. So it's 240, but I have to label it properly. It's cubic meters, so cubic units. So cubic, but what unit am I using? The unit I'm using is feet, so I write cubic feet. Now they want to know how I figured it out. Explain how you found the volume on the diagram. Circle the measurements you used for the dimensions. So if they did add an extra measurement, you wouldn't count that. You would just circle the ones that you use. So if there's another 12 feet here, don't circle that one. Just circle it once. And then tell them what you did. I multiplied length times width times height. Or you could write it out in a sentence, or you could just write L times width times height. Okay. Or you could say you don't even have to say that. You could just say I multiplied one of each dimension. All right, copy this, and then you can use this as your answer when you have to explain yourself. But remember, your answer might be this one, each dimension. Sorry, I don't have the whole word written out. But, I multiplied each dimension, S-I-O-N. And you could just write that, and I multiplied each dimension, or this. But you have to calculate whatever your answer is and make sure you have the proper labeling for it. Okay, so there's that one. And then for this one, is pretty simple. They want you to subdivide the rectangle above into 2 right triangles, only 2 of them. So you take one of the upper corners, and I don't know if I can do this with one hand, but I would roughly make this all the way down. Now if I had a ruler, or you can use your folder right now because you don't have a ruler, and take out a folder, and then you would connect this, and then it would ideally become 2 right angles. Okay, right angle triangles. I don't want 4, I just want 2. And subdivide the right angle to 2 right angles. Label one of these triangles A and the other one B. So do this, because this is what you're going to have to do as well. So please copy what I'm doing right now. Okay, so then find the area of the right triangle A using the dimension measurements. What is the area? Well, that's easy because they gave you the 2 dimensions. And this is the length and the width. So you could write that note here, or how did I find it? Or you could even just write A equals base times height. Area equals base times height. You can remember this. Divided by 2. Or think of it this way. Remember, you would never use the hypotenuse here in the middle because you're using the length and the width. So base and height is basically length. So then you could say, explain how you found it. This is your explanation. You don't even have to do a sentence. And then you split it in half like you did here. Otherwise, you have the area of the whole rectangle, and you want the area of only one of these triangles. And this is why you do it this way. So this is your full explanation. Okay? If it's hard for you, you can copy this down if this is easier for you. And then just think, and don't worry about being like, which one is base? Which one is base? This one's the base. But even if you didn't, you just know that you multiply these 2 dimensions on the outside of the rectangle. And then you have to split it in half to get one of the triangles. Okay? So you could just write length times width divided by 2. And if this is easier for you to understand, the reason why they're making you do one of these is so that you learn that that's why base and height works divided by 2. It's because if you don't divide by 2, you're just finding the area of a full-on rectangle instead of finding the area of one of the right angle triangles. That's why they have you do this. Okay, so just write this is your explanation, or write this is your explanation, draw this picture, and we're good to go. This is the whole video. You've done everything. Thank you so much. We had like a whole hour, maybe a little bit more because we ran over, and and maybe you had to watch some of this and finish it at home. Whatever you had to do, great. Thank you. I know you'll do great. Please make sure that you study this, because you won't have this on the test. But you just need to be familiar with what words mean perimeter. Even if you don't know this, you do know that it means things that go around. So if you don't have to commit completely to memory, but you'd be like, when you're reading the word borders, you'll see, oh, it means, oh, when they're doing a border for a painting, for a bulletin board, that's going around. Oh, I get it. Or sometimes they'll say the word around in it. Or they're saying the word cover, or they don't say the word cover, but they say carpet, and maybe they're filling something up, or it's a storage unit or a refrigerator, and you'll know that it's right because you know it's going in 3 dimensions, so you know you're figuring out the volume, etc. And just have a basic understanding that I'm going from a large unit to a smaller unit, so there's going to be more, so I'm multiplying. Or I'm going to a larger unit, so there's less of them, so I'm dividing. And they're going to tell you, they're going to say 1 liter equals 1,000. So there's some elements that you won't have to know. So just being generally familiar with this. You don't have to be able to say every word out to us to prove that you have it memorized, but be familiar. Be familiar with this. Thank you, and I know you'll do great.